Well, it's one of the most famous rivers in the world. From the Romans to Shakespeare and Queen Elizabeth II, millions of people have lived, worked, and even died as the River Thames flowed through their lives. Humans have been around this majestic body of water for over 4,000 years, which means that it holds plenty of trash and treasures. Our next guest is one of those people who hopes to bring much of those glimpses of the past to the surface. Nicola White is known as a mudlarker, and she joins us now from London. Nicola, thank you so much for being on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
My pleasure. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. What is mudlarking and how did you get into it?
I got into mudlarking when I moved to London in about 1999. It was by accident, really. I didn't know mudlarking was a thing then, but I used to I grew up in Cornwall, so I used to go beach combing and was searching for little bits and pieces at low tide on the beach. So when I moved to London, I live in Greenwich, which is right by the river. And one day I found myself down on the foreshore, and I was finding little bits of pottery and glass. And then one day I found my first coin. And after that, I was hooked. This idea that you can go down onto the foreshore at low tide and pick up something that somebody has dropped hundreds of years ago.
And you've also released your top mudlarking finds, which I'm really fascinated about. Let's start with the glass vessel that you found in the mud of the Thames.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's a little onion bottle, and it dates back to about 1690. And of course, the person who dropped it wouldn't have imagined that someone would get so excited finding it. But it's just the idea that somebody was carrying that around with them back in the 17th century with their wine or their brandy in it. And it's really rather rare. It's not very common to find them not in one piece, because that one wasn't, which I think made it very special, because I was able to collect all the pieces and then stick it back together. In terms of bottles, they're something that are very sought after, these little onion bottles. And when you look at the shape of it, you can see why it's called an onion bottle, because it's just like a little onion.
So, Nicola, remarkably, you said that it was over 400 years old. You were able to reconstruct it. Just who do you think along the River Thames would have been the person or people that would have drunk out of a bottle like that?
Heathens.
Well, the River Thames is interesting. You tend to find along the banks of the Thames the objects which reflect the activities which happened at those different places. And where I found that bottle, there was a lot of shipbreaking, shipbuilding going on. It was also very close to a naval dockyard. So I'm pretty certain that it would have been a sailor, somebody who was on one of the ships that called into London, maybe for a repair or something. It's very possible it came over from Holland. You know, I don't even know. I don't think it's necessarily English. So it would have come from somebody who was a seafaring sailor, I expect.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
17th century.
Well, you know, Nicola, one of the most extraordinary items that you found was actual money from Elizabethan times.
Yes, very exciting. I was very excited to find that. It was quite rare to find such a beautiful coin in the Thames. I mean, generally I find pennies, you know, whether that's pennies, the equivalent of pennies back in the past, or modern day ones. But this one was very special because it's a silver half a crown with Elizabeth I on one side. And it's very special because I found it not far from where her favourite palace was and where she was born. And so, you know, you can't help imagining how it was there, how it was lost. Was it somebody who got a little bit tipsy after a party in the palace and came stumbling out and dropped their money? Were they robbed? You know, I think when you find something like that and you pick it up, you're often the first person to touch it since the person back in Elizabethan times who touched it. And you can't help wondering who lost it, who owned it, whose pocket was it in.
Nicola, it's incredibly interesting. I've got to ask you, though, we know that museum and archaeologists can be, you know, pretty sensitive about this type of thing landing in the wrong hands, in their words. We've seen just recently where a full skeleton of a T-Rex sold for over $30 million to a private collector. What do you say, and how do you navigate that kind of thing? Because what you're finding are just amazing artifacts of the past? How do you navigate that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, as a mudlark, you also have a big responsibility to report your finds. And firstly, I should mention as well, you absolutely have to have a permit from the Port of London Authority to legally mudlark on the River Thames. You can't mudlark without one. For me, the value is always in the story. So the money is never something that I've thought about.
You
Not
know,
that I wouldn't like to find a whole cache of gold coins or anything, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, yeah, that's what Nicola, both Robbo and I are always needing a little bit of extra cash because of the amount of money that Rob McKnight pays us. We just want to know, is there much money in mudlarking? Like, should we maybe look into that as a career? Like, what sort of money is...
If that would be one's primary aim, I really wouldn't do it because
just like being on this show.
Sometimes we find
it's all done for love. I mean, sometimes you go down to the river. I mean, people who watch my YouTube videos might think that I'm down there just scooping up stuff left, right, and centre. But it's sometimes you go down there and you don't find very much at all. So you really have to put in the time and the effort and the work,
Well, Nicola, this has been absolutely fascinating. And if you want to follow Nicola's adventures, follow her on Twitter at TidelineArt. We can't wait to see what you find next. Thank you so much for joining us on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Okay, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.